I'm just home and tired, but I've got time for a quick one. I was asked to comment on the age of Aisha bint Abi Bakr because the whole 9 years old at consummation is pretty gross. And it does show up in some hadith, but we have to understand that hadith aren't actually scripture. They're filled with tons of errors. And the key here is that the hadith in question are actually making a maths error, just a basic arithmetic error. The problem here is that dating in the early Islamic period is generally relative because they didn't really have a calendar in use at the time, until considerably later. So there's a lot of things that are set relative to other events. And while we don't have an age or date of birth listed for Aisha directly, we do have one for her sister. So Asma bint Abi Bakr was, we have both the date of, we have her age at death, and we have how many years it had been since the Great Hijra in 622 CE are listed there. And from that, we can backdate, knowing when she died and how old she was, and we arrive at a birth year for her of 595. Now, everyone seems to agree that there's a 10-year age difference, that she's 10 years older. We've got that from Ibn Kathir, and we've got that from Dahabi, and they both put it at 10 years. So that would make it about 605 for Aisha's birth. And we know that Muhammad married her shortly after, in the year of sorrow. So when Khadija had died, his first wife, the one that he was, monogamous with for 25 years, something like that. And if we know that is in either 619, that's the most commonly cited year for it, although there are some traditions that put it in 623. But let's use the 619 first to look at this. And if all the sources agree that there's a 3-year gap in between betrothal and consummation, given that, we can put the betrothal at 14. Oh, pardon me, I'm tired. Whew. And the consummation at 17. If you use the later date for Khadija's death and say 623, then Aisha would have been 18 at betrothal and then 21 at consummation. But either way, she would be late teens or early 20s at the time of consummation, not 9 years old and prepubescent. So the key here really is just to understand that we do have very old sources noting the ages for the sister, the difference in age between the two sisters, which allows us to get a birth date for Aisha, even though it's not directly stated itself. And from that, it's pretty easy to do a little simple arithmetic and see that she was not a child. Of course, plenty of people are going to continue to point to the hadith and say that because they say that and they're sahih hadith, they must be true. But this whole idea that because somebody said the hadith is good, i.e. the isnads are good and, it was passed on for somebody, doesn't mean they don't have errors. It just means that it's plausible that someone said something. It doesn't mean there isn't a mistake in it, and there's a very clear mathematical error here. So, if you want to make Muhammad a pedophile, that's a whole different issue. But, if you don't, if you want to treat it like marriages generally worked in that era and location, where marriages and betrothals are frequently, 14, 15, 16 years old, then this one kind of fits that perfectly. So anyway, hopefully this helped. Sorry, I'm a little tired and yawning and whatnot, but I figured I'd try and knock it out before I go to sleep. Have a night.